There we go.
Lee, we've got something of a big show today. If
Very
I
big show, yeah.
understand what you were telling me earlier, you've made something of a breakthrough today. How are you?
I'm doing great, Jason. So yeah, uh, so what I want to talk about, everyone on the right has been saying the uh, kerfluffle, I'll say, between Ben Shapiro, Candace Owens, and also Rabbi Shmuley now. But let's talk
Shmuley.
about Candace Owens and Ben Shapiro first,
Yep.
because I did something that I've seen no one do on the right. No one, and you know what I mean. I'm using it right broadly. Republicans. Uh, I don't mean anything more than that. So no one's investigated the sources of funding for Daily Wire, forgive me, Daily
Yeah.
Wire, Ben
Yeah.
Shapiro's publication. And I found some astounding stuff. And I think people are really going to be kind of shocked by it. Now, we're going to talk about religion today. So let me say a few things about religion. First off, anyone can have any religious beliefs they want. Make sense? Right?
Yeah.
I don't care what your religious beliefs are, but if your religious beliefs affect your politics, right, they're the basis of your politics, and you're hiding them,
Right.
I would say that's suspicious.
Yes. Absolutely.
Right. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about big money, politics, religion, religion that affects politics. And I think of beliefs. I think he's the person who funded the Daily Wire. We'll talk about this. We're talking about someone named Harris Wilks. His name is Ferris Wilks, Farris Wilks. No E in Wilks. Okay.
Right.
And Ferris, like, not like Paris with an F. It's got two R's. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you Google him
He's
or
there.
whatever,
2 billion, Lee. That's a
what's
lot.
that?
He's worth 2 billion according to Forbes.
Right. So he made his money in fracking. And
Oh.
specifically, he and his brother Dan made his money selling services to fracking companies. He was not doing the actual fracking, but he was like doing trucking and shipping and that kind of stuff. So he made a lot of money in that. His brother made billions. And so, makes sense? So that's
Yep.
what we're talking about. Ferris,
Frack tech.
right. And Ferris Willis is also a pastor of a church in northern Texas uh, called the Assembly of Yahweh Seventh Day Church. So they're a Seventh Day Adventist church. Now, I didn't know much about Seventh Day Adventist church. Did you, Jason?
Definitely no. But is it a little weird to be a fracking billionaire and a church pastor? That seems not too standard.
Well, yes. And some people said that. Now, by the way, you will find stories about Ferris Wilks on the internet. You'll find a bunch of them, but all of them so far have been written by Democrats. So about half the stuff in the stories is garbage. Makes sense? I mean,
Yeah, because he's
I'm
probably
just saying,
paying Republicans. They don't want to say anything about him, right?
right. But half the stories are valuable information. So here's what I've learned. Ferris Wilks, first off, he was a funder behind Daily Caller. Now, Jason, you and I have been building an audience, I would say the organic way. But there's another way to build money, to build an audience. Spend a lot of money. That's
Right.
the old school media thing. It really
You're
is.
right. Yeah.
Because we talk about legacy media. Remember, everyone, 25 years ago, the only way to broadcast like this was to own an antenna or get cable access, right? I mean, how else
Yeah.
would you reach an audience of any size with no money? There's
You
no way
couldn't.
to do it.
And those licenses are incredibly expensive. The equipment was incredible. It was almost like built-in way to lock people out.
Right. But it was basically just, I think it's just a natural evolution of technology. It starts off very expensive, and it was
Yes.
very expensive.
Yes.
Those TV towers were necessary. And if you're going to broadcast a signal across, the state or
Yep.
continents, whatever, you need a big tower. And
And a lot of
that's
watts
right.
and everything.
Right. And that costs money. So
Yeah.
today, the same thing still applies. Now, it's true you can build an audience organically. You and I could build an audience for no money. But if someone gave us, let's say, $4 million, would that help?
Yeah,
I think
you'd
so.
advertise, and you'd basically advertise all over the place, and people would know about it.
Right? They know about it. But if you didn't, so Ferris Wilks gave $4.4 million for the Daily Wire. Okay, so Ben Shapiro did not like grow it organically. He got $4.4 million. Now, let's talk about Candace Owens for a second. By the way, my theory, Jason, I told you this. I do not think Candace Owens knows this. I have no reason to believe that she knows this. I've seen nothing. And look, I used to work for Breitbart. Okay, when I did not know who funded Breitbart.
Right.
It was Robert Mercer. And so a reporter called me one day and said, "What do you know about Mercer?" She knew I worked for Breitbart. I said, "Who?" I said,
Right.
I really did. I said, "Who?" And she said, "Robert Mercer." And I said, "Who? Who's that?" And she said, "He funds Breitbart. Don't you know who funds the group you work for?" And I said, "No." Right? Because let's say you work at McDonald's, to use a simple example. Do you know who owns the McDonald's that you work for? Not necessarily.
Maybe not. Yeah.
Right. You see what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it's not, I don't think it's weird. I think it's normal to not like investigate your employer.
Well, and one other thing, if you're enjoying the job and getting paid, why would you do that? You just presume, hey, this is a good company. I'm working here. Everything's cool.
That's right. And look, you can say certain things and no problem. So you can feel like you've got freedom of speech. But we're seeing now on issues around Israel and Zionism. I'm not saying Judaism, because I'll come to that in a second. Not saying Judaism, Zionism and Israel. On Israeli issues, you have very limited on the right. I've talked about that before. Now, the reason I say it's not Judaism, Ferris Wilks is not a Jew, but my friend Yakov Shapiro, I think we're going to get him on Thursday. We're going to try to, right, Jason?
Yes.
So Yakov calls Zionism identity theft on Judaism.
Yep.
And I know what he means by that. So let me just now, Jason, have you ever been to a Christian church?
Of course.
What's that?
Friends' weddings and funerals and stuff. Of course, yeah.
Okay. When you went to a Christian church, was there a menorah?
No.
Okay. Did they blow the horn, the shofar?
No, I have seen that with Mormon stuff, the shofar.
Right. Now, Seventh-day Adventist Church have menorahs at them, and his church specifically has menorah and blows a shofar. And the Seventh-day Adventist, their Sabbath is Saturday.
But wait a minute, Lee. This menorah he has here, it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, only 7 tines, or whatever you call this. A Jewish menorah has 8 plus 1 to light them all.
So their version of Judaism, the Seventh-day Adventist, is kind of like an AI version of Judaism. It gets some details wrong. You see AI photos with like 4 hands and some.
It's close.
It sort of looks like a hand.
Right.
So it sort of looks like a Jewish service, but it's a weird hybrid of Judaism and Christianity. And by the way, the Christian part is in that, kosher, I'll say, too. In other words, they don't do Judaism right or Christianity right.
Well, let's not say right or wrong. They have a different take on these things. It's a religion that seems to be formed from these various.
Well, I'm going to say right for this reason. I could say central to Judaism is the idea that Christ is divine, right?
Not
Christ.
You mean to Christianity?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So they do not.
Let me just hold you for 1 second, because I just want to let everybody know. This is like a third rail topic that we're dealing with tonight, and I appreciate Lee's courage in approaching it. And it's very easy for people to quickly misconstrue things. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands. Lee and I have been friends for like 30 years, and Lee is not anti-Semitic. We're not talking about, there's a lot of people talking about Judaism and stuff. We're talking about the political movement, Zionism, which involves Jewish people, Christian people, all kinds of stuff. It's separate from the religious aspects. And I just want to make sure people don't take this polarized point of view that so often happens whenever this topic comes up, right?
Yeah, and I'm also trying to, if someone's a Seventh-day Adventist, okay, if that's your religion, fine. You can have any religion you want, but it's not standard Christianity to say that Christ is not divine, right? I mean, it's look,
Yeah,
it's
I
like
mean, as
it's
far as
like
I know.
if I said I have a Jewish, I'm Jewish, and you said, do you believe in the Torah? I said no. You believe in Talmud? I said no. But you go, then how are you a Jew? You know, that's kind of fundamentals, right? So I'm saying Seventh-day Adventists, they also believe, from what you know, Jason, what do Christians believe? When you die, what happens?
You go to heaven if you're good and hell if you're bad.
Seventh-day Adventists don't believe that. They believe you basically go on limbo, not even limbo. You're waiting for the Christ to return, okay? And then you'll be able to go to heaven. So that's what they believe. And again, not standard Christianity. Now, again, if that's your belief, fine. However, one thing about Ferris Wilks is that he deleted every sermon from his church's website. Did you see that?
How do I see that? Where would I find that?
Well, it's in a couple of articles about him, but go to his website, go to church's website and look for sermons.
Oh.
Like, if I want to know what someone believes, if I want to know, let's say Yaakov, if I want to know what Yaakov believes, what's the best way to do that? Should I read an article about Yaakov?
Well, he's got his own website with everything on it.
If I can see his words, if I can see what Yaakov says, then I have a pretty good idea what he thinks. Make sense?
Yes. He has sermons here from 2024 and 2023, but there's nothing prior to 2024.
Right. Really. That's when he was aware that people were looking at him. Again, at that point, people on the left, Democrats, who don't like him for their own reasons. But I'm not saying I don't know the guy. He could be the nicest guy in the world. And by the way, if he wants to give us $4 million.
No, I don't want it. Because then he's going to try to tell us what to do. Well, but see, this is a good point to bring up for a second, Lee, because see, this is the whole entire reason why, when I started Crowdsource the Truth, I wanted to create this individual viewer micro sponsorship where people go to patreon.com/Stranahan or to odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth, crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, or subscribe to our Patreon/crowdsourcethetruth, because that way there is no $4 million sponsor. And if someone who is sponsoring for $3 a month or $5 a month says, hey, Jason, go do this, go do that, you're an idiot, I just say, here's your $3 and get the hell out of here. And when someone gives you $4 million, it's difficult to do that.
And so what I'm saying is, I believe a lot of Christians would be offended by this guy's beliefs. Makes sense? I think a lot of mainstream Christians would be offended. When I've asked people, what do you think of Seventh-day Adventists? A lot of them said it's a cult or it's a sect. They're Christians who think that, okay? That's their Christian view.
Wikipedia says it started in 1863 or something.
Right.
Yeah.
I talk about the 19th century a lot because that's the period when Zionism was formed. And
wait a minute. I got a question, Lee. It says Battle Creek, Michigan. Does that Kellogg's cereal guy have anything to do with this?
I don't know that. I've just been researching this today, so I don't know as much as I'm going to know. But by the way, the reason I mentioned this guy's name, I encourage everyone to research this on their own. And if I get anything wrong, point it out, because I'm not trying to be wrong. It's just a lot of material. So the reason this matters to me is because it explains what's going on. First off, it's not about well, let me go back for a second. I think Candace Owens might not know at all what's going on with this guy who funded her. And by the way, he also funded Prager University, Dennis Prager's site. And that's where Candace Owens got her start.
Yeah, that's where I first saw her.
Now, so why is he funding a Black conservative? So one thing about Ferris Wilks, he's very anti-abortion. He's very, very anti-abortion. He's so, you can't say he's a hypocrite. He's got 11 kids, Jason. So
Well,
that's pretty anti-abortion, right?
that's a lot. By the way, the Kellogg's cereal is. It says, here is something from the Smithsonian. It says the secret ingredient in Kellogg's cornflakes is Seventh-day Adventism.
Interesting. Good, fine, Jason. So one thing about Seventh-day Adventists too, again, again, Jews call it keeping kosher. They do a modified version of keeping kosher. Seventh-day Adventists don't eat pork, and they don't eat shellfish. So no steak and lobster dinner for Candace.
That's not good.
They do mix. They can have a cheeseburger. So that's treif, according to Jews, right?
I cook them almost every week, though. But I don't keep kosher, but you're right. You're not supposed to do that.
Right. But so again, it's a modified version of Judaism. It's not Judaism, but it's Judaism-ish. Makes sense?
Yeah.
So also, a lot of Seventh-day Adventists are vegetarians. I think, and there's a whole religious argument that the reason Christians are allowed to break the dietary laws is the Sermon on the Mount, basically. What Jesus was talking about there was why you can ignore the stuff in the Old Testament, some of it. That's what Christ was talking about on Sermon on the Mount. So without getting into a religious thing, I'm just saying this is what they think, this is what they believe, and this is what this guy believes. So the reason I think he's in favor of a black conservative, and this is a hypothesis, is that the black conservatives I know, abortion is a big issue for them because of the disproportionate number of black abortions and Margaret Sanger and all that stuff, right? So a guy who's pro-life might want a black conservative who's pro-life and is willing to talk about it, willing to say, to other black people, here's why you should not be pro-choice, right? And so I think that's why Candace was interesting to him.
But she's also super smart and beautiful and like...
Yeah, right. All that, yes, absolutely. But, like I say, on the issues, it's a hypothesis, but because when you look into it, and a lot of people may go, well, I'm pro-life, so sounds good. But again, I'm not saying bad. I'm saying this explains what's going on. Make sense?
Yes.
So Candace Owens saying Christ is king offends, like Rabbi Shmuley is offended by that. But I think a Christian Zionist who's a Seventh-day Adventist who does not believe that Christ is king, believes that Christ is the assistant to God, basically, like a top employee. That's kind of, again, not theology, but a rough approximation. They don't think Christ is divine. So
they don't have Easter?
They don't, not Easter or Christmas.
Really?
Yes, that's right. And of course,
so someone's saying total disinformation. I don't know. Why is this disinformation?
Name the claim that you think is incorrect.
John, tell us what it is. This is John saying this is total disinformation. I mean, look, as Lee said, this is not a theology lesson. We're just looking at this guy. This is like a Wikipedia reading of what we understand of this.
I haven't gone and erased all my speeches or periscopes.
Yeah, I mean, this is background that you're giving on this guy. The primary focus is the funding.
Oh, come on, pal.
Wait. Let's calm down. Come on. Let's see what he says, because that kind of comment doesn't help us. What we're doing is we're just sort of laying out this guy's background, because the focus of what we're going to talk about is how he funded the Daily Wire, and to get into more details of what's been going on with Rabbi Shmuley. And just for a moment, if I may speak, because Rabbi Shmuley, I never knew who this guy was until a couple of months ago when Robert Kennedy got jammed up over some kind of tweet where people said he was supporting, I don't know, Nazis or something. So he went and had some kind of like sit down talk at I went to see it with Shmuley. And I got to say something, Lee. This guy, Rabbi Shmuley, is so repulsive in every single way. Even before he did this ridiculousness where he dressed up with this huge nose and money and drinking blood and mocking Candace. I mean, this guy is so offensive. So John is saying there are Hebrew roots, but this is what Lee was saying. John, we're going to ask you to just calm down these comments for right now. I don't know this person.
Is he saying anything useful?
Not really useful, no.
Is he named
Hebrew roots? Hebrew roots, you said.
What?
Nothing to do with it. We can't get into a conversation with this person. I don't know what he's trying to tell us. But again, this is not a theology lesson. This is not a show about Seventh-day Adventism.
It's not disinformation. It's not disinformation at all. This guy, Ferris Wilks, funded the Daily Caller. In fact, you can find a video. Jason, I have a video of the guy Jeremy Boring, who's the CEO of the company. One of the three founders. They say that there are three founders. Ben Shapiro, Jeremy Boring, who's a director. And by the way, a lot of this is in politics. You constantly need large amounts of money, right?
Right.
Now, so who else do you know, Jason, in a career that needs large amounts of money constantly?
Everybody?
No, I disagree. If you want to own a taco cart, you don't need huge amounts of money.
Okay. I don't know.
Let's say one direct films.
You need money.
Right. So in other words, a guy like Ben Shapiro may not look too closely at who's writing the checks. And a guy like the director, Jeremy Boring, may not look. If a guy comes to Jeremy and says, I'll give you $2 million to make a film you want to make.
By the way, that's most people, Lee. I don't know these two guys, so not to disparage them. I think more than most people, if someone says, we want to give you $2 million for your project, they don't start examining what's wrong with this person. They say, let's get that $2 million.
That's right. And that's why I said, I didn't look up Mercer. But when the reporter asked me about Mercer, I looked him up. At that point, I was like, okay, I don't know who's funding it. So maybe I should look into this.
Right.
Now, one thing you know for sure is Ferris Wilks was a big supporter of Ted Cruz. In fact, he and his brother Dan put up 2/3 of the money for Ted Cruz's run for president in 2016. So that was when Cruz was taking on Trump, and I was at Breitbart at the time, and I was, reading Breitbart every day. I don't know it now; too painful. But now, at the time, Ben Shapiro was every day attacking Trump and praising Ted Cruz.
Mostly and working at Breitbart at that time, Ben Shapiro, right?
That's right. Yeah. And then when the Michelle Fields incident happened, Ben Shapiro was suddenly leaving to form his own company with a couple of Cruz supporters, I heard. Now, I didn't know who. I didn't look it up till today. But I'd heard that at the time. And they were big Cruz guys. So in other words, they were backing not Trump. Now, they gave millions of dollars to Ted Cruz. And you can find this. They also gave $300,000 to Trump. Now, to you and I, if someone put in $300,000 in payroll, to us, that's a big deal, right?
Yeah.
But to these guys, $300,000 is Trump change. They find it in their couch. Make sense? I mean, not really, but...
No, absolutely. It's a small amount of money for them. It's a token, but it's also enough that they can get in there and be like, hey, Trump, we gave you $300,000.
That's
You're
right.
Go to dinner or something.
And that's around the time Ben changed. Ben used to be really anti-Trump. In fact, he famously said Andrew Breitbart would have hated Trump. Now, I thought that was bullshit, knowing Andrew. I think Trump would have, I think Andrew would have liked Trump, actually. I could cite why.
Yeah.
No, look, I'll put it like this. I think Andrew would like his swagger.
Cool. Lee, let me just interrupt for a second because we are out of time here. We're going to be moving over to our sponsor exclusive segment, which is good because we've got video clips to show and even more controversial things to discuss. But people who are interested can join us on patreon.com/Stranahan. You can sponsor Lee on patreon.com/Stranahan. We're also going to be simulcasting on odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth, crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, and subscribestar.com, and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. So I hope everybody will stay with us. We'll be back in 5 minutes.
And by the way, we welcome criticism, but saying this is simple or it's bullshit, it's the same as saying.
Right.
It's the same. It has all the intellectual content of that.
You're right.
Make a claim. Make a
Yes.
claim. Say what's wrong. Say no, he's not a true supporter. Then show your work. It's obvious he is. So
Absolutely.
Anyway, have more
We'll be back
coming up.
in 5 minutes. And stay with us, everybody. Thank